It's been 30 years of my journey of being a homeopathy and a holistic health physician. 30 years of going on healing journeys of people's lives, trying to understand a patient, a person in mind, body, and spirit. It's been 30 years of caring for a patient and knowing what is the well-being of a patient. By well-being, I mean in mind, body, and spirit. And I must say at the outset over here that it's been a very, very satisfying and cherishing journey of being involved in people's lives, of contributing in people's health, and also of making a change in a person's health pattern. It's also been 30 years since I began my journey in the field of cancer, a very challenging field and a field of mistletoe therapy. In the year 1991, I was working at the Lucas Clinic and I attended the seminar on anthroposophy and mistletoe therapy. And since then, I have been using mistletoe in treating cancer patients, and I attended not only in India, but throughout the world. I would here like to quote Mr. William Osler. It's always more important to know what kind of a person has the disease than what kind of disease is there in a person. And in the website, Enlifen.in, we have dealt with this particular mode of understanding the person and the patient behind the disease. It's how you feel. It's how you feel before an illness, how you feel during an illness, and how you feel when you are cured. And 2 years ago, after nearly 30 years of medical practice, I coined the concept of the 3 S's of health, which are very, very important to understand a patient, whether they are suffering from common cold or the big C. And that is the theory of the 3 S's. The first S being suppression, second being spontaneity, and the third being a free spirit. So let's begin today's journey in the launch of the website by understanding what happens to a person when a person falls ill. That's very important. So when a person falls ill, what are the first signs of sickness? And over the years of dealing with people's lives when they are ill and in health, I realized there are 3 things that happen when a person first falls ill. That is, they always say that I feel heavy. Secondly, they say that I feel restricted. And thirdly, I feel a bit dull. I'm sure most of you who have had an illness, whether it's a fever, whether it's a migraine, whether it's asthma, you must have dealt with these 3 subtle changes of sickness: heaviness, dullness, and feeling restricted. And that's how you know that a person is ill. And as a patient walks into my chamber, each time that I begin the consultation, we begin what is called as the healing journey. And it's very, very important to understand the entire journey of sickness of a patient. It's not just the symptoms as they have developed, but it's also what has happened before the symptoms have developed, what has happened before the headache has come on, what has happened before the fever has come on. Segment is very, very important. And I always ask my patient my favorite question: tell me your story. A story of your illness and a story of your life. And through that story, we always ask, when were you last well? And what wellness means to you. It's very important to understand these points. So when were you last well? And then a patient falls ill, and you understand the symptoms of the illness, again, in mind, body, and spirit. So the website Enlifen.in basically encompasses the wholeness concept and not the fragmented concept of sickness, of dividing the body into compartments viewed by different doctors. It's very, very important to understand the patient as a whole, a patient having mouth ulcers, patient having indigestion, a patient having a joint problem. They are all interlinked. So the website Enlifen.in believes in understanding a patient as a whole in mind, body, and spirit. And that was the main reason why the website has been made, to understand the wholeness concept of a human being and how a patient falls ill, what happens in illness, and how a patient is cured. A few moments ago, I shared with you the concept of feeling heavy, dull, and restricted when you fall ill. So you give a remedy, a homeopathic remedy, and what happens to the patient? The first changes that you observe, and many patients come and tell me this, that they feel fresh, they feel active, and they feel a sense of freedom. And that is how a cure eventually happens. And it's not only the remedy, it's not only the medicine which a doctor gives you, it's also understanding and taking you on a journey of illness in a patient, trying to see what has gone wrong in your lives that you have fallen ill. And that is why Enlifen as a website has taken all these points, all these concepts of healing, and that is how we embarked upon the journey about 1.5 years ago with my team to form Enlifen.in. It's also been 30 years of my journey as a cancer physician in the field of mistletoe therapy of cancer. Way back in 1991, I began my journey and I tried to understand what happens to a cancer patient and what therapy and what contributes to the journey of a cancer patient, to heal a cancer patient. And that is where I realized that mistletoe plays a very important role in enhancing and stabilizing the quality of life of a cancer patient. And that is why I began using mistletoe as part of my integrative oncology protocol, along with homeopathy, backflower therapy, mistletoe, and other bits of advice to contribute to healing in a patient. And healing in a patient in a way of holism, in a holistic way, at every stage of the patient's life. You have to view the patient as a whole entity. And that is how, when we view a patient in our clinic and with Enlifen, we try to understand what has gone wrong in a patient's life. When has a patient lost their well-being and made the person ill? And that is how the website was made. And we've tried to look at different aspects of healing in the website. As I go along introducing you to the website, in the latter half of the program, you will come to know of the core, the essence, and belief that we strongly carry when we heal a patient. So this is a bit about my introduction. I was also very fortunate to deliver a lecture at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine in 2013 to talk upon thought patterns of cancer patients before they fall ill. And I've had the good luck and the good opportunity of also being a clinical observer at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, New York in 2009, and also at the Medical University of Vienna in 2016. So this is a bit about healing, a bit about Enlifen. What was the objective of making Enlifen? Many a times, patients come to me trying to search for meaning in their illness, of why they fall sick, the why of an illness. And that's when we always call our patients personally to the clinic, and we go on a healing journey, and we start with the question, tell me your story. Many a times, patients unfold reports and medicines they have taken, but I have to redirect them to their story. And that is very, very important. And that is what Enlifen believes in. That's what I have believed in as a homeopathy and holistic health physician. And I feel extremely satisfied today, after 30 years of my life, contributing and touching a person's life. And one of the person that I've touched in my life is my very good friend, Mr. Sandilya, who is present today for the launch of the website Enlifen.in. So, not to keep you waiting, I would like to warmly invite Mr. Sandilya to launch the website. And I must say a few warm words about this man. It's been a journey together for about 25 years or so. And Mr. Sandilya has been a corporate professional having over 52 years of experience in various capacities. Presently, he is a non-executive chairman of Eicher Motors Limited and Mastech Limited, in addition to being on the board of a few other companies. He is an extremely passionate believer in homeopathy from his childhood, as his father also believed in the system, having a lot of reference books at home, some of which are referred to even today. He regularly updates himself by attending homeopathic webinars despite his busy schedule. I must say that's really interesting, Sandilya. Whenever he gets the time and by referring books when he comes across unique cases. As I've known Mr. Sandilya, he is a spiritually inclined person and also involves himself in social work. He was the president of SOS Children's Villages of India for over 12 years, an organization taking care of over 27,000 children needing care all over India in 32 locations spread over 22 states. And that's a wonderful thing, Mr. Sandilya. He continues to be the chairman of the SOS Children's Villages India Trust. He also advises, helps many other non-profit organizations in various capacities. He always tries to be helpful to people who approach him with health issues. Once again, I warmly invite Mr. Sandilya to launch the website enlifen.in. Sir.
Thank you, Zubin, for the nice introduction. I do feel extremely delighted to have been invited by you to launch your website Enlifen. And it's really an honor, and I feel humbled that you have chosen among so many other friends that you may have to launch this website of yours. Before I officially launch the website, I have a captive audience, and I'm sure I can take the liberty. Zubin wanted me to speak for about 15-20 minutes. And then I thought, let me kind of do that honors. Otherwise, it will be just say the website is launched and then keep quiet. Zubin has already shared with you something about me, but I thought I will share three things broadly over the next 15-20 minutes. One is that how do I know Zubin? What is my relationship with him, and how did it evolve over the last 25 years he talked about? My own journey with homeopathy from childhood, which again Zubin referred to, that yes, I have been not only treated, but also been treating people in a way, as I can call it, as a hobby or an amateur person. But I've had a journey with homeopathy. I'll share that with you. And lastly, I will touch about homeopathy as a subject. I mean, though Zubin is a doctor, holistic healer, he can talk a lot about it. But for me, as a person not necessarily being qualified as a doctor, but yet, what is it that makes me have interest in the subject, and what is special about the subject that makes it unique in a way that people like me take interest in it? Let me start with a story. It was 18th of January, 1995. 18th of January, 1995, early in the morning, I was catching a flight from Bombay to Indore. I used to work at Indore those days at Eicher Motors and keep traveling between Bombay, either as a transit point or on work. So on one such morning, I get into the flight and I normally take the first aisle seat, 1 Charlie or 1 Delta. On that day, I was sitting in 1 Charlie. And suddenly I find a very charming young man with a broad smile comes and sits at as a neighbor at 1 Alpha. Sits with me, and a nice demeanor, and a young person is having a lot of good, nice, bright smile, and well decked up and very smart. So after the flight took off, I started having a chit chat with him. Hey, I'm so and so, doing something at Indore. So what do you do, sir? Then he said, I'm a homeopathic physician. I'm practicing in Bombay. I'm a graduate in homeopathy from Bombay. Then I did my post-graduation from Switzerland. And when I'm practicing. And least did I realize that he is 4 or 5 years into his practice. Only afterwards I knew that he just started the practice in 1991 and it's 4 years since then I'm meeting him. And I said, what are you doing in Indore? I'm going to treat a cancer patient. Huh? I said, that's interesting. Treating cancer with homeopathy, what are you doing? I knew that homeopathy has cured because my mother was being treated with that by my father and my family physician. But still, I listened to him and I said, hey, that's interesting. Whom are you treating? I didn't want to get into the details of the individuals. But then I requested him. I said, listen, one of my colleagues also has a problem. His wife is suffering from breast cancer. Would you have the time today in your busy schedule to visit him? He said, why not? He accepted the invitation. I said, subject to my friend or my colleague willing to do that. And I talked to my colleague. He said, yes, why not? And he took time off to go to the patient's house, spend time with her, counsel her, cajole her, suggest certain medicines to her, and so on. And that's, I think, a very interesting thing. A person is not just there commercially for the job that he is to do, but he's willing to help. I think that's the kind of personality that I came to know about this person. And that person is none other than Dr. Zubin Marolia, that you would have guessed in any case, because that's what he talked about showing me 25 years ago. That's not the end of the story, but having known him and got introduced him in the flight, as is my usual habit, I made notes. And whenever I used to go to Bombay, I used to make a telephone call to him and say, hey, Dr. Marolia, how are you? We met in the flight and XYZ, and keep having a casual chat with him. And it used to happen every time I go to Bombay. I used to just pick up a telephone call and talk to him. And he used to wonder, who's this fellow? I mean, a strange fellow who sits with me in the flight and then comes and talks to me and says that I want to have a chat with you. And, it's just one of those things. He thought I'm just a strange animal. He's some kind of a fool who's wasting my time. But notwithstanding that, he did one day invite me to his clinic. He said, why don't you come, we'll personally meet and have a chat. So I went there, met him and had a chat with him, discuss about homeopathy, because my interest in the subject of homeopathy is what makes me, dwell in. Even the flight that I discussed with him about a small problem in homeopathy, I said, listen, I do have a problem of these East Ocean tubes in the ears get blocked when I travel sometime because of the flight pressure. Immediately he suggested, what do you do? I told him some medicines I take at that point of time. He suggested to me, why don't you take Mercury's Dulcis 30, keep it with you, and whenever you have this problem, take it. Since then, I always carry Mercury's Dulcis in my pocket when I travel in flights. In case I have a problem before getting down, I always take one dose and I am totally all right. So, but this is not true that everyone can have this cure. I mean, it depends on the individual. Some people take natrum, some people take some other medicine. So it depends on the individual's own personality. And that journey continued, and not so much that the thing, after about 13 years, on the 15th of October 2008, I told Zubin, listen, I want to now come to you as a patient. Our friendship is all right. I've been discussing with you. And normally it's very difficult from a friendship to turn into a patient-doctor relationship. But I took the plunge and said, listen, I want to talk to you. He said, all right, come over. Typical of him, when you go to his clinic, it is not that you have a token and wait for you. Somebody will announce that so-and-so is calling you, please go inside. Zubin will invariably come out and take you in. And I've seen this many times in his clinic. I've been to his clinic many times as a friend, waiting to be taking him out for a dinner or going for an evening chat. I used to do that many occasions, but he always used to come out and take his patient inside with a smile and then make them comfortable, sit and talk. What amazed me on that day was that typically, as he said, that you please tell me a story, he asked me to share about myself and my life story from childhood. And it took about 2 or 2.5 hours of discussion, and he kept listening to me, he kept observing me, and the amount of details that he went to was mind-boggling. And he had a notebook. He opens a notebook. On that, he has a sketch of a human body. And I'm sharing these things with you to tell you what kind of a person that he is. I mean, the idea is not to describe the event, but so much so to describe this person. He had taken that thing, and on the map, the human body sketch, he starts writing down each one of my observations, which body, what I'm talking about, which problem I had in my childhood. Subsequently, he started noting down the specific points and makes complete note. An amazing observation that he was looking at me, how I speak, what I say, what do I do? I keep doing this. So he noticed that aspect. When he looked at what kind of a taste I have, whether it is I like sour things, sweet things, X, Y, all kinds of questions. Yeah, that typical homeopath should do. And at the end of it, he made some very, very unique observations about me as my personality, even how I may be sleeping. What is the posture in which I will be sleeping? I cannot forget that kind of detailing that he went into the 2.5 hours story. That is the typical homeopath. And I realized that day that Dr. Zubin Marolia is a person who thoroughly understands the person as a whole, and not just looking at you have a headache, you've got a stomach pain, you treat you, and so on and so forth. I think that is for you, Dr. Zubin Marolia. And subsequently, of course, I used to interact with him. I used to share with him a lot of stories. I also have unique cases which I come across in articles or books. I immediately phone him up and share with him, hey, Zubin, this is what I say, this is what I came across. And he, in turn, will also share with me some of his experiences of unique cases. Whenever he attends a conference, I have attended many of his conferences, once in person in Delhi, when he had spoken about a particular typical case, very interesting case. And whenever he goes to international conferences, invariably he sends me a link and either watch it live or watch the recording. Incidentally, he also asks feedback from me, so what do you think about it? And I'm honest with him, and I tell him what areas I liked, what areas I think he could improve, so that the presentation becomes far more kind of powerful. And he's a great speaker. I mean, he's a very passionate speaker, and it's always lovely to watch him on the podium speaking to audience. Having said something about him and how I know him, and I must thank him for choosing me to launch his website. It's nice of him, and I'm delighted. Now, let me turn about my own journey with homeopathy. I think that's something interesting to share with some of you, that as he said, that I have been taking medicines from my childhood. And my father used to be an ardent homeopathic devotee, if I can call it, a believer, a passionate person. And we had a family physician who used to be Dr. P.B. Sundaresan, who used to also share with us details. I mean, he was not secretive doctor. He will tell us. And my father used to consult him a lot in terms of what medicine he gave and why he gave and so on. So, for example, in childhood, we all have tonsils infection, right? And we were treated for tonsillitis with beta-carb and calcarea floor, and I think for a month or two. As a child, I still remember these two medicines that I took at that point of time, and my tonsils, the infection vanished. I mean, the inflammation, infection vanished, and for years I've not had any problem with my tonsillitis. But normally, an allopath surgeon will say, surgery, do remove it, and that's it. And obviously, you open yourself to far more infections because your immunity system gets weakened by the process of a surgery. So that is the kind of experience I started my career with. Subsequently, I've used this in a variety of ways in our life with my family. My wife's second child delivery we treated her with a particular medicine my father gave, and the delivery was so smooth that the doctor in the hospital couldn't believe. He asked her, what did you do? How is it so smooth? I used the same medicine for my daughter when she delivered the baby, and again, absolutely smooth. So the system of homeopathy for me has been an amazing experience. I want to share with you two examples of what happens in an emergency sometimes where you need to have this. You know, I used to always carry some medicines with me whenever I go on travel. I will just share two such experiences with you. It's very interesting. Normally, when you go on a long journey in a hill station, you will not have any medical attention. We were on a Kailash Manasarovar trip in 2017, and I had taken about 35 medicines. Before that, I in fact told Zubin, I'm planning to take these 30 medicines. What do you think of that? Normally, when you go on a high altitude, you have a breathing problem, and people take all kinds of allopathic doses. Diamox is one of the medicines that people normally take. All of us take it. I mean, I was taking a homeopathic medicine called Coccus. Along with that, I was also taking half a dose of Diamox just to keep it balanced. So the first day when we were at the higher altitude, one of the persons came and told me, Mr. Sandilya, I have a small problem and I've got a tingling feeling in my fingers. And I didn't tell you earlier that I have a software in my mobile phone, and I always keep referring to it very often. So I immediately looked at it and said, listen, I think you have this particular feeling. It must be the effect of the Diamox that you're having. I gave her 1 dose of aconite. Next morning, she wakes up and says, Mr. Sandilya, that's gone. My feeling is gone. Another lady comes and tells me, Mr. Sandilya, it seems you have a magic potion, a magic medicine for tingling feeling. The same day in the afternoon, she had a problem of stomach upset, and I gave her 1 dose of Nux Vomica, and the next morning she was all right. So, you're going in a Kailash Mansarovar trip where there is no, there were 2-3 doctors in our in the trip, but I mean, one of them was a pediatrician, the other one was a psychiatrist, the other one was a radiologist, and so on. But all said and done, I mean, they won't be equipped with treating people like this on the spot. So my bunch of medicines helped. Another friend of mine had a problem. She touched a thorny plant and the thorn entered her finger. I said, don't do anything with it. Don't put any pin to remove it. I'll give you a medicine. I gave her Sandilya one dose. Next morning, within 3-4 hours, that thing went away, vanished. She said, my God, Sandilya, what is it that you're doing? I'll give you a second information that we were on a trip in Greece. Again, in a foreign land, we have got all my classmates were on a trip in Greece. And there was one person who said, listen, I have a problem. My wife keeps having cough in the night and she cannot sleep well. And I also cannot sleep in the night. And, I have a problem when she coughs and it becomes difficult and severe disturbed sleep. So I went through the history. I went through a lot of details, checked with her. And just to give you some, there are lots of medicines for cough in homeopathy, not small medicine. So I looked at all that and came back with something. And I gave her one medicine. Let's say take 2-3 doses, you'll be all right. Next morning, my friend comes and tells me, Mr. Sandilya, I don't know. Yesterday, she coughed less. Second day, she took, next day, he came and said, no, it's much better. I think she had very little cough and I slept very well, no problem, peaceful. Third day, he comes and tells me, Mr. Sandilya, I don't know what magic you did. Her cough totally stopped. She slept well. I slept very well. Just imagine what a science like homeopathy can do. And that's how I got passionate about the subject, and my journey with homeopathy is like. Now, let me give you some more insights. I have taken already 15 minutes or 13 minutes. I will take another 4-5 minutes before I conclude my speech, because I don't want to extend beyond, because on this subject, if I don't look at watch, I can speak for 2 hours and still not, make people feel bored. So coming to this homeopathy as a subject, there are lots of myths about the subject. One of the myths is that it's very slow. It is not slow. Sometimes it can give you instantaneous results. And my father used to always say, and I believe in it, that the medicine starts acting the moment it is on your tongue. But I've shared with you examples of person having tingling feeling and the person having thorn going away in a few hours. These are cases where there can be instant relief. And there are cases who are supposedly dead persons having woken up by having homeopathic treatment. I've shared that case with Zubin. And from that day, Zubin keeps carrying the medicine with him always, whether from Al, Zubin, if you remember that case. Okay. And second thing, which is also important, is that there are sometimes very acute cases where the patient could have a problem. There was one case where one of my relatives phoned up in the night at 9:30 and said, listen, Sandilya, I have a problem. My neighbor is having a problem. He has been treated for a lot of allopathic ailments. He has been to hospital and he's been treated with all kinds of medicine. Last 3 days, he's suffering from constipation and he's having terribly, never experienced it in life. You're telling me at 9:30 in the night, and what do I do? And I am not a doctor. I mean, please understand that my knowledge is very, very limited. But I still told him, ask his wife to go in the market and get Naxwamika 33 doses, and that's it. Then go to a good homeopath and consult, because this is first aid. I'm not suggesting any medicine as a long-term medication. Please, don't believe me, I'm not a doctor. That the person did that. Next morning, within 2 doses, the person had his motion and he was quite all right. And the lady was delighted. Okay. And then I rang up Zubin Marolia, told him, this is what I did, Zubin. I think in an emergency, what do you do? And this person had so much of a suffering. He said, Sandilya, you did the right thing, because Naxwamika has the potential to remove all the ill effects of allopathic medicines. That is what is said. And you pick a Materia Medica Boric, you refer to Naxwamika, you will find that as one of these symptoms. But in homeopathy, when you read a book, you should be very, very careful. Each medicine will have some 2, 3, 4 pages of write-up on variety of things, starting from mind to head to nose to mouth to respiration system to locomotor system. But you have to understand as to what is the holistic picture that you are taking out of it, the gist of it for the individual, not so much in terms of looking at it saying, I'm not having all these symptoms. No need at all. Look at the broad kind of symptoms and do that. So there are possibilities that you can have. The third thing that you must know is that though we all say that homeopathy does not have after effect, always be watchful. I mean, don't take it for granted that homeopathic medicines also have aggravations. The aggravations can be sometimes mild, sometimes major. But if there's a minor aggravation, it means the medicine is actually acting and showing the symptoms being thrown up in the system, so that the doctor can understand what is happening in your system and go back. And it goes backwards, starting from the current symptom to the previous symptom, As Zubin was saying, that it goes back into your story of your life and goes to the root cause and try to heal you. Therefore, you should have a lot of patience. And it is possible to kind of look at it. And every medicine has antidotes. And also each medicine has the capability to antidote other medicines. So this also a person should understand. When I talk to you about that, it has sometimes can be ill effects. Like there are medicines which can have really, really bad effect if you don't know what to do. Same thing in the Kailash Mansarovar, one old lady was having a problem, and her son came and told me she's suffering from this. I said, listen, I know the medicine. I can't give it to her. I asked a simple question, what is her vitality? No, her vitality is very low. Sorry, I can't give her the medicine, because the medicine that I give, if it is the person is having a very low vitality, it can even cause her problem. I mean, it can cause life. So I can't kind of, I'm not a doctor. I'm only a person who has got a knowledge, amateurish knowledge, bookish knowledge, but I cannot take a risk by giving medicine which I know can have effects like this. So I think when you look at this science, you have to look at it a little holistically, carefully, and not kind of start treating it as if it's no effect, no problem. I can go in the market, buy some medicine and take it for my headache. It's not like popping a pill for headache or popping a paracetamol for your fever. It has to be taken very, very carefully and looked at it. I'm just mentioning to you that there are so many medicines. There's just one item like, say, cough has got 170 medicines in this book called Homeopathic Therapeutics called Lilienthal. I refer to this very often because each type of symptom, you will have some 40, 50, 100, 200 medicines thrown up. But then you start looking at the specific symptom that is relevant to the individual, what the person is experiencing. If it's a cough, what is the nature of the cough? If it's a dry cough, wet cough, got phlegm in the chest, what is happening? So I think it is important for us to look at the entire person as a whole, as Zubin said so beautifully, that we are not treating the specific symptoms, we are not treating the problem for which the person comes, we listen to the story, we listen to the person as a whole. We understand the person's historical perspective. When did the person start having the problem? What is the emotional trauma that a person went through? We all know that emotional trauma can cause tremendous amount of problem in our physical body, which manifest themselves not just after 2 months, 3 months, can manifest after 5 years. That is why it's important to look at the historical perspective. And I'm Dr. Zubin Barolia. I'm so delighted that when he looks at a patient, I always want patients, when I refer them to Zubin, I said, when you go to him, please ensure for your first consultation, you have at least 2 to 2.5 hours free, because he will grill you, and please share with him everything about yourself. Don't keep anything to you. With a lawyer and doctor, don't keep things confidential. Open up yourself and tell him everything about you, whether you sleep on the left or the right or straight, X, Y, Z, what you like, what you don't like, what kind of fight you've had with your wife, what kind of a fight you've had with your parents. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's everything is important. People have an impact of diseases based on the divorce. I know a case of a person had thyroids after 5 years of having had a divorce. The person had impact only from that day onwards. The person had a problem, and she got treated. She was all right. So there are a number of cases that one goes through in life on such cases. And a person like Dr. Zubin Barolia is actually a master of understanding the person as a whole, and his whole process of treatment is a holistic treatment. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I'm extremely delighted. It's just about 20 minutes, and I hope I have not bored the audience too much. I have shared some stories about myself and the subject of homeopathy as to what are the specialities about the science, how homeopathy looks at the person as a whole and not just minor symptoms. Now it's my pleasure, and I'm really delighted that Dr. Zubin Barolia requested me to launch the website, and I now officially declare the website is launched. Thank you, Zubin. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Sandilya. That was a very vibrant and dynamic talk you've given, and I could see the passion with which you speak about homeopathy, and it's been just amazing. And I was writing down a few words, Mr. Sandilya, about what you spoke about, a few stories, your healing experiences, and it's very, very important. And we have a homeopathic medical college where I teach every Tuesday, and I always believe, and I always tell the students and the interns who come to the outpatient department over there to always learn in your life at every stage, from a patient, from a person, etc. So, two of the words which Sir has very carefully used. One is individual, and secondly, experiencing the illness. So let me here take you to two amazing stories of patients before I take you on the virtual tour of the website, Enlifen.in. So I recently saw a lady, 43 years of age, who came to me with a thyroid disorder wherein the thyroid secretion was on the excessive side, a condition what is called as hyperthyroidism, wherein she had lost weight and she had other symptoms. And what is the current medical scenario we see? Every person believes thyroid being part of the endocrine system, you go to an endocrinologist. So she went to an endocrinologist in Mumbai, and he looked at the reports. You've got a hypothyroid condition, and he prescribed neomercazole, the medication. The point to note is no attempt was made to understand this young lady's life. What has gone wrong a few days before she develops a thyroid disorder? It was only looking at the thyroid gland as a regional part of the body and giving only for the thyroid gland. But the thyroid gland is impacted from above, from the pituitary gland. And to understand the endocrine problem, you have to understand the healing journey. You have to understand the story of this lady. And so she takes the hyperthyroid medicine for a few years, and she goes into a condition of hypothyroidism, wherein the thyroid secretion becomes abnormally low with their own set of symptoms. And then she comes to me searching for answers that if I have a condition, why has this happened? Why has this happened is what she came to me with. So I asked her, I said, please sit down and tell me your story, tell me your journey. What happened a few months, weeks, days, hours before you developed the thyroid disorder? And it's very interesting. And I didn't have the story in my mind, but after listening to Sandilya's challenging stories, I thought that I should share this one with you. So she told me very clearly, yes, doc, I know the thyroid problem started after my daughter suffered burns on both her lower limbs a few weeks before, and I was so frightened. I was alone in the house with my daughter, and hot boiling water fell on her legs, and she developed this kind of severe burns. And my husband was not there. I was frightened and I was frantic. And you can imagine the impact of fright on the body, the mind-body connection, fright leading to a disorder of the thyroid gland. A very beautiful example of how every physician and every medical student has to understand and establish a cause-effect relationship in an illness. And after understanding that, and after I take her whole history for 1.5 hours, and as Mr. Sandilya has said, I don't took 2 hours right now. I'm a bit more smarter, so I take only 1.5 hours on a lighter note. And we gave her the homeopathic remedy for fright. And she's currently under treatment. And it's an integrative approach. Again, over here in Enlifen.in, we have established and we have shared stories and testimonials of patients who have gone through the entire healing journey of their life with a holistic care physician. Not only myself, with any holistic care physician who wants to listen to what has happened in their lives. In their lives, so life, and that's how the term Enlifen was coined, because life is central to health and life is central to disease. So Enlifen, and then we had a brainstorm meeting. I remember a couple of years ago when we coined the term, we want to enlighten a human being for his life and enrich it. So enlightenment, enrichment of life is what Enlifen is all about. So over here, we give out a medicine for fright. Similarly, I'll take you to another story. This is a lady who consulted me for hair fall, acute hair fall, alopecia from Dubai. And she obviously, we all know it's a regional concept that we have, that if we have a hair problem or a scalp problem or a skin problem, we go to a dermatologist. So she goes to a dermatologist, she goes to a trichologist, thinking that the hair fall will be cured. It didn't happen. So she comes to me in homeopathy, sir, can I, Dr. Zubin, can I get a homeopathic consultation for my hair fall? And to keep it short, I asked her about a story, and she said that I am in Dubai and my parents are in India, and I feel very, very upset that I had to leave my old parents and come to Dubai for a job. And I still feel the guilt of leaving my old parents back in India for my life. And it was the guilt aspect which was so very important to understand in this patient's life. So each individual component of the body is interlinked. It is never only the part, it is interlinked. The hair is part of the body. And then I advised her, and then we shared this particular concept because she was a very intelligent lady. She asked me, why do you ask me all these questions? Many times patients always ask, what is the need to ask all these questions? What is the need to go on a journey like this? You give me a medicine. And then I shared with her the concept, and I shared with her that this is the event, this is the situation, and the emotional state, as Mr. Sandilya has very rightly said about the emotions aspect, that it is the guilt which has led to the hair fall. And it's very important that you understand this along with giving a homeopathic remedy. And homeopathy understands the holistic being of a patient, the whole of a person beautifully. And it has got beautiful remedies for mind-body connective states, for states wherein we have states of physical overexertion, etc. So we have remedies in homeopathy for grief, for disappointment, for a kind of a deceived ambition, for financial struggles. Just yesterday, I saw a lady who had faced financial struggles all in her life. And she was so amazed that she could spend some time with a doctor, and each patient, after the life journey, leaves the consulting room smiling and satisfied that they have been listened to. It's so very important for a physician to listen to your patients. Of course, you listen to the illness. Of course, you listen to what's gone wrong, and you listen to your patients. And that's where true healing lies. My dear friends, that's where true healing lies. Let me take 2 more minutes of another story. I saw a lady who had severe urinary tract infection, repeated episodes and recurrence of urinary tract infection that came to me in the year 2002, way back 20 years ago. And she was an unmarried lady living alone. And as she was writing a case record form, I observed that she is single. She's about 65 years old. She's living alone in a society in Mumbai, and she has a pus cell count in the urine in an acute urinary tract infection episode of 150 to 200 pus cells. And she comes to me because she has taken repeated courses of antibiotics, and she's not better, and she keeps on getting an infection once in every 2 to 3 months. So for a healing journey, you are searching for an answer to healing, searching for an answer as to how you can become a better, healthy person in mind, body, and spirit. So I asked her, I said, when were you last well? Tell me your story. So she looks at her reports and she says, oh, the pus cell count was 150 to 200. And I tell her, I said, I don't want to know, I have seen the urine report, but I don't want to look at the urine report. I want to know what happened before you developed the first episode of urinary tract infection. And then she fails to remember because it's so many months that have passed by. And then I give her time. And then she says, well, I don't know if this has contributed, but I want to share something very sad that happened in my life. And she said that she was living alone, and she was part of a society treasury meeting account, and she was falsely blamed for some financial irregularities. And she was extremely and a deeply sensitive individual. And I asked her, how did you feel? So she says, I feel very embarrassed that this has happened and people are falsely blaming me. So there was embarrassment which was looked at. So here again, when you go on the healing journey, you are identifying embarrassment with urinary tract infection. This might sound very amazing to so many people who are attending today's launch event, but this is exactly what healing is about, my dear friends. And then she says, okay, doctor, I want to tell you one more thing. So I was alone one time at my house, and the police came to my house, knocked on the door, and they dragged me to the police station, and I had some issues with the police, and I was very, very embarrassed, and I was shocked that this has happened. So there was a deep state of shock, and in shock, to understand shock, there is a homeopathic remedy, and the remedy is none other than opium. And we gave her opium in homeopathy as a homeopathic remedy. Mind you, dear friends, it is a nano-diluted remedy. And we gave her opium, and after 5 days, the pus count became normal. 18, 20 years of her life, there has been no episode of urinary tract infection. And that is the power of listening to a journey. That is the power of the homeopathic remedy. And again, at this particular instance, I take you on a virtual tour of the website, which I'm sure you are all waiting to know. But I thought that taking a cue from Mr. Sandilya about his stories, I thought I must share with you these two amazing stories. And there have been hundreds of stories like these, hundreds of stories. I saw a young man in the lockdown last year who was exposed to the rainy weather, the damp weather, and he was sitting at home near his window, and he had a backache. And for backache, I told him what was the problem. So he says, no, I was exposed to the cold draft of air, the dampness of the weather, and homeopathy understands these kind of climatic changes, atmospheric changes on the human body beautifully. So I told him, I said, where do you sit to do your online work? I sit next to the window. And where is the window facing in the house? The window is facing towards an area with a draft of air. So we gave out a homeopathic remedy, which I'm sure Mr. Sandilya will completely agree with me, called Dalkamara for dampness, and the effect of dampness, which has caused a muscle spasm, and his backache was cured. Again, here you see how important it is to understand the how and the why of an illness. You have to find, my dear friends, in your journey, in your life, you have to find a physician who understands the how and the why of an illness, and not just treat your symptoms, and know the root cause of your illness. And you can know the root cause of any illness only by going on the journey of your life. On this note, once again, Mr. Sandilya, thank you very much for launching the website. I take you on the tour of the website. We begin Enlifen.in. Welcome to all once again. So when we had coined this website, as you see, this is the first page. This is the overview of the site, Healing at Your Core. And what is the core of the human body? The core of the human body is the mind-body-spirit axis. So you have to heal every patient at the core, and not just at the periphery of the symptoms, whether it's hair fall, whether it's pus in the urine, or whether it's a backache or a tissue problem. So healing at your core has been a very, very important part of a message that I want to give to everyone who is attending this launch of the website Enlifen.in. And as I take you ahead, Enlifen also makes an attempt to understand the personalized medicine aspect, because every individual is different. Mistletoe is the kiss of life. That is me standing in the mistletoe garden for the kiss of life to cancer patients. I've already said this, won't you journey, your journey with me is also, again, very, very important to understand. So the three pillars on which Enlifen.in stands, the first one is the core, and this matter has been developed and has been written by my lovely daughter, Parinas, and let me take you through it. Where the heart of healing lies is also the soil on which the disease thrives. The energy to enable cure lives within you. Hence, the core is what we must pursue. The first one is the core, which I've mentioned. We now go on to the essence of healing. There is so much in a patient's life left to be uttered. So much left to be uttered that finds a way to our ears. So much remaining to be shared, from passion to fears. So much within you that yearns to be set free. Speaking the language of the unspoken is our key. So the essence is very, very important, because many times the patients are not given enough time to tell their story. The third pillar is beliefs. Bodies don't suffer, people do. There are so many angles. We avoid much. There are so many angles that excuse me, bodies don't suffer, people do. There are so many angles to just one view. The stimulus to suffering threatens one's integrity, to avoid which we must capture the body in its entirety. So beliefs is again a very, very important part of Enlifen.in. So we have the core, we have the essence and the beliefs, the three pillars on which we stand. The Enlifen Clinic, we offer patients the best possible personalized quality care to achieve their health goals. And as you scroll down, you will see testimonial, the first one being from our friend, Mr. Sandilya. Pushpa is a lady with advanced ovarian cancer, which many of you have seen on the Truth About Cancer series video. And as you scroll down, you will see the blog. In the blog, I have mentioned a conversation which I did for a podcast. The first one, which you can listen to the podcast for Elevate Life. It's very important to know the stages of a cancer journey. And the last aspect, as I've spoken to you before, in Enlifen is the whole, understanding the patient as a whole, the salutogenesis, the concept of salutogenesis. So it's very important. Let me take you through the aspect of salutogenesis. Salutogenesis, we are coming to understand health not as an absence of disease, but rather as a process by which individuals maintain their sense of coherence and ability to function in the face of changes in themselves and their relationships with their environment. And this becomes very important for a cancer patient. What is the salutogenic aspect of a cancer patient's life? So this was the first tab which I've covered on overview. And the sliders. Enlifen is a realm of personalized medicine, a haven for soulful healing, a place that devises an individualized protocol for special health needs. Like I mentioned, a center where the how and why of your illness needs to be understood. The Enlifen Clinic is your destination. These are a few words, and I'm sure most of you have seen the video from the Truth About Cancer series, which you can also look a bit later. We go to the second tab, and that's the tab of what we do actually in the clinic, and that's the methodology involved in healing a patient. The methodology and laying it down before you. So you have the interview. The first point is being the medical interview of going on a healing journey. And very important at every stage, we believe in giving patient-centric care, the story, and then you examine the patient and you do a general examination of the patient, wherein you always make sure that You reassure a patient, you tap a patient on their shoulders, and you touch a patient, which is so very important because you're actually touching lives. Analysis and evaluation of a patient's symptoms, and then you give the remedy, the next step. And then you look for other ancillary treatments that might help a patient and incorporate an integrative approach, which is so very important. Many a times patients come with chronic disorders like diabetes, hypertension, thyroid problems, wherein you cannot remove or cannot cut short the allopathic remedy. So therein we devise an integrative approach, and every physician should make an attempt to have this sort of integration. And then if you need, you have a specialist referral, and then you do a follow-up of the patient. And in the follow-up, what do you see? You see freshness. I feel lighter, and I feel more freedom. And that's very, very important. So the methodology of the website, of the work that we've been doing, we have all been patients at some point in time and have invariably fallen prey to the whirlwind of emotions that comes with being ill. As we set foot inside any clinic, our mind is enfolded with uncertainty as we face the bombardment of questions in our heads. Is my disease serious? Is it curable? Will my doctor give me sufficient time? What diet and regimen I should follow? The last question, always in a patient's mind, am I at the right place? Am I being listened to? Ultimate health, my dear friends, is a destination that requires an extensively devised roadmap in order to reach there. A roadmap of your life journey, a roadmap of being with a physician, with a holistic health physician who is able to listen to each and every aspect of your life. The therapies we use are basically three. Of course, I've already mentioned to you about homeopathy as a system of medicine. Many a times patients always think of homeopathy as those small globules. What will they do? Are they going to be really effective? So homeopathy, very beautifully, as my daughter said, is coined from the term home. That for us is a place of warmth, comfort, and a sense of safety. Homeopathy was basically comes from the words homeos and pathy. Homeos means similar, and pathy means suffering. The science of similarity, as I mentioned, and it was invented by Samuel Hahnemann. So let us go to this last paragraph, which is so beautifully written. Observational studies. If I can take your attention to this paragraph, my dear friends, observational studies assessing quality of life changes during long-term homeopathic therapy showed how a patient's experience of healing involves a transformational feeling, entailing the patient-provider relationship. Patients also reported that the treatment helped them become released from chronic dysfunctional patterns at the somatic, social, and spiritual levels. If I take you back to the case, my dear friends, of hair fall and guilt, you will know what the last sentence means. Patients reported that the treatment helped them become released from the chronic dysfunctional patterns at the somatic, social, and spiritual levels. This confirms that homeopathy triggers a global healing response, resulting in a greater sense of freedom at multiple levels. This is just to show the sides of the balance. Always the human body and not just the human being and not just the human body. And this picture shows a very interesting point of a missing piece in the body's puzzle. And when you give a homeopathic remedy that is given based on the entire history of the patient, the past history of the patient, the genetic code, and trying to understand the constitution of the patient. It's very important. I would like to take a few more moments over here. That when you come to a homeopathic physician and you undergo the healing journey, you are trying to understand the constitution, means the entire mind, body, spirit axis, because your constitution medicine eventually becomes your soul mate, because you're actually touching the soul. Like in the aspect of hair fall and guilt, fright and urinary tract infection. So when you finish the whole case history session with a homeopathic doctor, the symptoms are combined and analyzed to form a characteristic pattern by which a single remedy is administered. The remedy is called as the constitutional remedy. And this concept of administering a single remedy, it might sound quite surprising to you all, my dear friends. How can a single remedy bring about a change? So the concept of administering a single remedy is most unique to homeopathy. It's like finding your soulmate in life. Just how there might be one perfect person for everyone, similarly, there's one perfect remedy befitted for each one of us. And as Mahatma Gandhi has said, homeopathy cures a larger percentage of cases than any other form of treatment and is beyond doubt safer and more economical. So here you have the third tab, and then you have the testimonials section. I'm extremely thankful to most of my patients who have agreed to write a few words about their experience of being under my treatment and sharing their experiences. Next tab is the blog. We've tried to make, and the blog, again, I would encourage all of you to read the blog and also listen to the podcast, which I did recently for Elevate Life. And the last tab is the contact us wherein you have a very simple form in which you write your name, your phone, your email, and you can send it to us, and we can begin the healing journey. So we've tried to keep the website very simple to try and see if everything is structured and can you have an easy navigational pattern to it. So this is about the virtual tour of Enlifen.in. This is also about the concepts of healing, which this website has been sharing and has been propounding. And once again, I thank Mr. Sandilya. I would also like to extend my deepest gratitude and my thanks to my wife, Dr. Benaz Marolia, my daughter, Dr. Parinaz Marolia, and to the entire team of Dot Solutions for being patient with me and bearing with me, because many a times they used to ask me for Dr. Zubin, please give us the matter, please give us the matter, and I would shun them for a few days and then ultimately give the matter. So my deep thanks to the entire team of Dot Solutions, Tapan Parekh. Tapan, thank you very much. Rajbir, Fatima, Orlando, and any other that I have missed. And I sincerely hope, my dear friends, that I have shared with you what healing has to be in the future. As I say, it's not just about giving a medicine. It's not just about removing a disease. It's about promoting well-being. And on this note, all of you have a wonderful day. And to my guests from the United States, good evening. And thank you very much for being a part of the launch of Enlifen.in. Thank you very much to everyone. Thank you. If you have any questions, we can take them. If there are any questions, you can ask me. Or you can write to us. Thank you very much, Sandilya. Thank you very much, Tapan, Parinas. Take care and have a lovely day ahead.
I wish you all the